The first rule they taught us before entering the Aurelian citadel was simple. Do not touch the queen. Not her hands. Not her robes. Not even the air around her throne. The Aurelians were not hostile. They were ancient, intelligent, and terrifyingly precise. A civilization that had mastered gravity wells and memory transference before humans had invented the wheel. When they invited Earth to send an ambassadorial team, it was considered the greatest diplomatic opportunity in human history. I was not an ambassador. I was a systems linguist, tasked with translating neural symbolic patterns embedded in Aurelian speech. My role was to observe, listen, and record. I wasn't supposed to be noticed. The Queen of the Aurelian Saileth, the Everbound, had ruled for over 400 Earth years. Not through tyranny, but through something far more unsettling, absolute emotional synchronization with her people. She felt what they felt. Their fear, their loyalty, their pie. That's why touching her was forbidden. Physical contact triggered something in Aurelian biology, an amplification of neural resonance. Touch wasn't intimacy to them. It was communication. The citadel itself floated above the planet's surface, a living structure grown from crystal metal organisms. Gravity shifted subtly as we walked, responding to neural signatures rather than mass. I remember thinking how quiet it was. No footsteps. No echoes. Only thought-responsive silence. The queen sat on a throne that wasn't a throne at all, more like a convergence point where light bent inward. Her form was tall, luminous, humanoid but unmistakably alien. Skin like polished pearl veined with faint bioluminescence. Eyes black, starless, endless. As we approached, my translator implant buzzed softly in my skull. She is aware of you, it warned. I swallowed. The ambassadors bowed. I followed clumsily, late. And that's when it happened. A shift in gravity unexpected, sharp. My foot slid half an inch. My hand reached out instinctively, and my fingers brushed the queen's arm. The citadel reacted. Light flared. The air vibrated like a struck bell. Every Aurelian in the chamber froze in absolute stillness. I pulled back instantly, horror flooding me. I am sorry, I stammered. It was an accident. The queen stood. She looked directly at me. Not past me. Not through me. At me. The chamber filled with a sound I can only describe as thought made audible. Then her voice entered my mind, calm, layered, impossibly close. Do it again. Middle. Time fractured. The ambassadors shouted. Aurelian guards, tall, bladed silhouettes, shifted into defensive formation. My heart slammed against my ribs hard enough to hurt. I didn't mean to, I began. I know, the queen said. She stepped closer. Every instinct screamed to run, to kneel, to disappear. My translator implant was overheating, struggling to process the emotional bandwidth flooding through her words. You touched without intent, she continued. That is not possible among my kind. Her arm remained extended, waiting. The prime ambassador hissed my nom in warning, but the queen's gaze never left me. Again, she said, softer now. Please. I hesitated. Then I reached out. My fingertips met her skin. The universe opened. Not visually, internally. Memories flooded my mind that weren't mine. Birth of stars. Collapse of empires. The weight of centuries pressing into a single consciousness. And beneath it all, loneliness. Aurelian touch wasn't just communication. It was shared existence. They evolved in constant neural harmony. The queen bore the emotional burden of trillions, absorbing pain so others didn't have to. But humans were different. We were loud inside, chaotic, individual, fragmented. And when I touched her, my unshielded mind did something no Aurelian ever had. It reflected her emotions back to her, unfiltered, she gasped. The guards froze. The citadel trembled. You are separate, she whispered, yet present. I staggered, nearly collapsing as the contact broke. The queen steadied herself against the throne. For the first time in 4 centuries, Salith the Everbound looked shaken. The chamber erupted in confusion. Aurelian scholars rushed forward, their minds already analyzing the impossible data spike recorded by the Citadel. Human ambassadors demanded explanations. Security protocols escalated. But the queen raised one hand. Silence fell instantly. The human remains, she declared. He will not be punished. I expected relief. Instead, I felt dread. In the days that followed, I was isolated, not imprisoned but studied. The Aurelians called it observation grace. I learned the truth. Aurelian queens were never meant to rule alone. In ancient times, they ruled in pairs, 2 minds in permanent resonance, balancing each other's emotional load. But centuries ago, the second half of the bond was lost during a civil schism. Since then, each queen endured alone, slowly deteriorating under the accumulated psychic weight. Human minds, it turned out, were incompatible with Aurelian resonance in a crucial way. We didn't merge. We mirrored. When I touched the queen, I didn't absorb her pain. I let her see herself. For the first time in centuries, the Aurelians called it reflective contact, and it was something they had believed extinct. The queen requested my presence again. Privately. The chamber was smaller this time. No guards. No ambassadors. Just her. And me. I am afraid, she admitted, not with words, but with raw emotional transmission. You're not supposed to be, I replied quietly. She almost smiled. That is why I need you. Over weeks, our sessions continued. Brief touches. Controlled contact. Each time, she stabilized her neural pattern smoothing, the citadel responding with harmonic resonance rather than strain. The Aurelians began to recover. Emotional volatility across their world decreased. Conflict stalled. Creativity surged. I became a variable they couldn't ignore. But Earth noticed too. Human command wanted me extracted. Studied. Replicated. The Aurelians refused. Tensions escalated. And the queen was forced to make a choice. Ending. The final session felt different. Heavier. The citadel's light dimmed as I entered the chamber. The queen stood by the observation veil, gazing down at her planet. Vast, luminous, fragile. They will come for you, she said. I know. You could leave now. I shook my head. That wouldn't fix anything. She turned toward me, her presence vast yet focused. If you remain, she said, you will never be merely human again. What would I be? She stepped closer. Necessary. I laughed softly. That's a dangerous thing to be. Her hand hovered inches from mine. Last time, she said, you touched without knowing what it meant. Her eyes met mine. No command in them now. No authority. Only choice. This time, she said gently, do it because you choose to. I reached out. The contact was different. No flood. No overwhelm. Just balance. I felt her centuries of burden ease, not vanish, but distribute. Not into me, but through me. Like a prism splitting unbearable weight into something survivable. The citadel sang. Not audibly, but in resonance, vibration, harmony. Outside, human ships arrived in orbit. Inside, a new Aurelian era began. The queen closed her eyes. Stay, she said. Not as a ruler. Not as a command. As a request. I stayed. Not as her subject. Not as her consort, not as her property, but as something no one had predicted. A mirror, a bridge, a reminder that sometimes the smallest accident, the briefest touch, can change the fate of two civilizations. And every time I reach for her now, she still tells me to do it again.